Yesterday we talked about taking our time seriously, our time with the Lord. We have a limited number of opportunities to get closer to God, right? The clock has started. And it take millions of years before we could even get close to appreciating God, perhaps. But in the short period of time we have, let's use it well. But along with that, there's another thing that we have to come across, and this has to do with the idea of traveling light. Traveling light, it's not necessarily, I'm just talking about getting rid of books like I talked about yesterday, but another form of traveling light. And it has to do with our ties to this world. In the 19th century, when I was younger, I had a favorite writer. His name was George MacDonald. Has anybody read George MacDonald besides my wife? George MacDonald he told fairy tales. He was as famous as Charles Dickens in his day. And he wrote these fairy tales, and one of them was called The Light Princess. There was this baby that was born, this girl, to a king. For whatever reason, maybe a witch put a spell on her or something, but she had no weight. And they had to be really careful because if she was walking and a gust of wind would pick her up like a leaf and just send her away. And so they always had to watch her because she was light, she was joyful, she had all this happiness, but there was no weight. And then finally when she was a young woman, she had this man she fell in love with, and he died. And immediately the weight of the world crashed on her, and she lost her lightness. Because she was no longer light because of the cares of the world and the sadness of this life. We, as followers of Christ, we need to develop a lightness of being. We don't want to let the cares of this world, the desires of this world, the things of this world that are so hard, either drag us down by our desiring these things or beat us down by suffering those things. God has called us to be light, to let these things go. And that's what Jesus says about taking up your cross daily and following Him. What we find is when we pick up and remember that our kingdom is not of this world, that we're not trying to make a heaven on earth. Yes, we do try to show good works and help people and advocate for those who are in need. You know, you're all Catholics out there. I know you're doing that sort of thing. But ultimately, not all of you. You know, there's got some of you evangelicals who are doing the same thing. But ultimately, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to become light. We're trying to take these things that we go through and say, God, I commit this to you. I put myself in your hands. I'm not going to let the cares of this world beat me down. I'm going to let my trials discipline me, teach me faithfulness. But the reason we have those difficulties is to remind ourselves that we don't belong here. Our lightness is up here, where someday we'll become so light, please God, that we'll just rise up to heaven like a helium balloon. But the idea, again, and this is what I want to leave you with, is that what you and I have the opportunity to do here is to discover true joy. Have you ever had a moment where you put God first? You get rid of the sins, the heaviness, the things that are holding you down, the burdens, the trials, the things that you know are not of God. When we get rid of those, we become lighter. You have this sense of joy, this sense of peace, this sense of the Spirit of God. All of a sudden you feel like you're in heaven. You ever had that experience just for a moment? God gives that to you to say, this is your destination. Now get back out there and get working. Carry that cross because your kingdom is not in this world. So God gives us something better to look at. We can't lose that dream and that vision. Please stand.